Your characters are each quite different. Without revealing too much, what was it about the character on page that attracted you to your role?
Hmm. Well, she's a climate scientist, so I love that she's both so smart, but also really grounded and light and loose and free in a way that as an actor, I don't often get the opportunity to play. Um, and I love the relationship between the two of them. They're polar opposites, but they complete each other and they bring out the best in each other. And it felt like a really beautiful foundation for Heller's ultimate grief journey throughout the film.
I think what attracted me to Inquilline was that she's this beautiful dichotomy of somebody who, because of her feelings of loss, has sort of retreated from the world. But yet at the same time, she has found a way to channel her energy into sort of being a champion for justice and speaking truth to power in a way that I just thought was so heroic. And it just was such a lovely contrast of retreat and also pushing things out into the light, which I thought was really interesting.
Again, without revealing too much, tell us about your character's relationship to Heller and why is it so crucial to the story?
So Inquiline's relationship to Heller is quite complex. When we first encounter Inquilline, we don't know who she or who they are. There's this question that Heller is actually trying to figure out. They've had a working relationship for many years, but it's veiled in secrecy. But they have a shared kind of passion for data and information. But when we actually meet her, which upends a lot of Heller's expectations, they realize that they have another shared bond, which is the bond of loss.
Sarah is Heller's wife, and she's also his connection in a way to the outside world. He works in a basement. He he sits behind a computer all day, and I think sometimes his world can get quite insular and he can live inside his head. And she's somebody who constantly pushes him to look outside, to be a little braver, to be a little bolder, to have a sense of humor. And I think he recognizes how important it is in some ways earlier in the film, but also especially after she's gone.
The story has a lot to do with the importance of human connection. Can you explain?
I think we see what happens to somebody in this film when their most important connection is taken from them, and how it can drive people to do such extreme things. And I think that is, you realize the value and the necessity that we all have for connection, as you see with Heller and Sarah, and then with Heller and Inquilline and all the other people he meets along the way.
The film also asks some pretty tough questions about the value of life and who deserves to have it in a way, and what it means to be a part of. I don't want to say eliminating somebody's life, but I think Heller asked some pretty difficult questions about our shared humanity when face to face with people that he believes have been responsible for taking away one of his greatest personal connections. But the film also asks him to look at their humanity as well. I think that's particularly evident in the relationship between Rami and Laurence's characters in the film. It's such an interesting relationship that shouldn't work. They should be, they would be enemies in a different version of this film. And in this one, they sort of find their shared humanity.
Mm-hmm.
What is the film saying about the difference between justice and revenge?
Big question.
Yeah. I think for me, that was one of the most interesting kind of themes in this film, because I think it's something that I believe gets confused so many times. justice is bringing somebody to account, whereas revenge is punishing someone. And sort of speaking to what Rachel had said earlier, you know, I think Heller gets, Inquilline sort of asks this, and Laurence's character asks this of him. It's, do you feel any better? Is this bringing you any solace? And personally, I think, you know, that's where revenge falls short, because really you're just inflicting more pain. And it's great, I think, that in this kind of film that we are provoking those conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better, but there's one moment in particular, without giving too much away, towards the end of the film, where he has an opportunity to come face to face with that question after having entertained it and explored it at a number of different points in the movie. There's sort of one final face to face, and I think he finds his own answer to that question. That's quite unexpected. A lot of this film follows Heller figuring out how to navigate that question his way, and not in a way that we've necessarily seen another hero in a movie like this do. And that rings true to the very end.
Can you talk about the epic scope of the film and all the exotic international locations?
I mean, the film, for what often feels scene to scene like a deep character study, the film is enormous. I had the great opportunity, and I'll let Caitriona talk about the international piece, but I had the great opportunity to watch them shoot that pool break scene that you see in the trailer. And they had 2 shots at it. It was one of the most incredible stunts and feats of set design that I've ever seen in person. They had 2 shots at it because it was this giant pool that crumbles into thousands of pieces. And it took about 7 hours, if I'm not mistaken, to put it back together. Oh. And so watching the stunt team and the production design team and all of the different elements, the CGI folks that go into making something like that possible, it was one of the most inspiring moments I've ever had on a set. And everybody just held their breath and watched the pool break, and everybody was extraordinary. They had it on the first take and then got one more shot at it. Wow. So it just, in that moment, you become aware of the scale of this film.
Yeah, I mean, you know, James is an amazing director. I think he is so specific. He knows exactly what he needs. He is so efficient. And it was such a huge task for them. And they also, you know, they got shut down in the middle of it because of the actors' strike, and they were able to...
that day.
Oh, that was the day that...
The day of the pool.
Wow. And then they were able to get it back up in like record time. But I was shooting in Marseille. They'd already been in London and Paris. Then I joined them in Marseille. Then we all went to Istanbul. So that's a huge company move in so many different places. They were also stitching together interiors and exteriors that were shot in different places. But also they were losing locations all the time because once that company moved, we're gone. So just to be able to watch how James was in absolute control of all that, and how the production design team and everybody were just so amazing. It was really inspiring, and shooting so much as well. But I think that just speaks to just the meticulous planning that was done and how everybody was just on top of their A game.